having to, be here on the East Coast. So a lot of guys. It's going to be interesting. I think that's what makes it fun is you start predicting, and there's so many guys that you never know what they're going to do, and when they're healthy, when they're not, and all those things. So looking forward to it.
To your point, I think when we go with the 250 East Division, it's always you get a couple rounds into the West Coast, and we've all been anticipating this. There's so much unpredictability with this track, especially pretty tight and technical. All these guys, you do not know what's going to happen.
And I think the right-hand first turn tonight is going to be really interesting. Tom Vial, a great starter, and that one was not it.
So that was not. That one will make dinner taste a little bit worse in between now and the night show.
Agree. So yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting track. Like I said, it was really ready in the earlier practice that I watched, and they've done a lot of work, and the track looks quite a lot different. So I think these boys are going to lay down some laps while they can, and they got a nice track.
We've got 250 Group A qualifying, fueled by Monster Energy. There you see Max Anstey getting out to that early lead. And Chad, let's talk about that. We talk about it being a practice start, but you can get some confidence from that as well, huh?
Yeah, I mean, as athletes, you always weigh it in your favor, right? Let's be honest. You try to rip a start for the most part, I believe, and if you miss it, you kind of blow it off. But I think for the most part, everybody tries to get in there and make the most of it.
Looks like we had a rider down there after the whoops. Justin, not sure if we caught the number. It's the 83. Oh, it looks like, well, okay, so I thought when I saw yellow flags in the whoops that maybe he tossed it away in the whoops, but it looks like just that sand got him.
Yeah, and just that turn, right? But talk about, I mean, Chad, you were great in sand. You lived in Florida for many years. Seems like guys from Australia, for some reason, are great in sand. But that section looks tough.
I believe you were here in 18, right?
That was tough.
Were you here in 18, or were you on the other coast?
I was on the West Coast.
Okay, so 2018 was like at least my first time racing in Tampa, and they had what looked like they brought truckloads of dirt from Clearwater Beach, and it was gnarly. And so even the best sand riders in the world, like the thing is, it's hard underneath. They're riding Supercross bikes with really hard suspension. So all the things that you normally are used to from let's call it a sand technique or rider, it's all really different. But RJ's a great sand rider, grew up in Dade City, Florida. So watch for him to shine in that section.
And also, I think one of the most technical parts of the sand on a Supercross track, as we watch RJ hit that 3-out beautifully, I think it's the transition from the clay to the sand and then the sand back to the clay. Right, that has a massive effect on traction, and just knowing how much you can lean the bike over, knowing how hard you can brake based on the soil.
Yeah, to that comment, I saw that the biggest mistakes I've seen of Chase Sexton in the earlier one was actually he's exiting of the whoops or entry of the the sand. Sorry.
Yep.
It's really challenging. It's super slippery going in, super slippery coming out. It's challenging for the boys.
There's how about these rhythm lanes, Chad? A lot of threes right there on cue. 3 over that big 5-footer and then triple again. Then there's another one. You'll see Fortner go over the table, on, off, and right into this triple. And then this left-hander right here. 2 3-footers into a huge 5-footer that the guys they've been able to get over it, but I don't see anyone doing it in this session so far.
I was going to say, I don't know if the 250 guys, I thought I seen Eli do it earlier in one of the ones, but I haven't seen any 250 guys. That's a big seat bounce.
Let's see how Austin gets through the whoops here. See a lot of guys favoring that right-hand side. He went up the left. Man, Chad, those whoops look pretty difficult. They look pretty small to start the day, but looking technical right now.
Definitely makes me proud to see these boys not so much struggling, but just seeing that they're holding up enough that they can't jump
having
them
to
yet,
think about it.
And they have to think about it, and you got to man up. That's what whoops are about.
Oh, yeah.
So
how about Daxton Binnick on top, 56.7.
That's solid. That puts him, what would he be overall right now, with a 5th? There goes Kitchen to the top. We haven't talked a lot about Levi Kitchen in that last section. There's, as I say that, Anstey goes to the top. So these guys are throwing in some times right now. 55.4. That puts Anstey on top overall.
And like I said, like the track right now is prime. Like you see these guys getting out there, getting used to it, seeing where the lines are, see where they can push, where they can't. And they're taking full advantage. It's go time right now.
And another thing about these Q2 sessions, kind of with this later, we had a bit of a later start today because we're on the East Coast. One of the things that I always struggled with, and I'm sure a lot of guys did, you have the sun in your eyes at this time of the day, and sometimes on tracks, especially with ruts, as we see some yellow flags, it can be very difficult with the sun in your eyes.
really difficult. You know, like you see one side of the stadium is got, you know, shade, and then the other side is really bright, and that messes with you from a rider, and not only from your vision, but it also makes the track different, right? Like one side dries out earlier, one side gets hard and baked. I always remember Anaheim doing that.
And your depth perception, I always felt like too, timing, that kind of thing, knowing how deep a rut is.
Daxton Bennick on screen. Chad, you've been close with him. We've both ridden at his track there in North Carolina. Big year for Daxton.
Big year for Dax. You know, I think that he's made a lot of changes in the offseason, worked really hard, and he's a very, very talented individual. And I hope it's a season of, you know, we all get to know who the real Dax is and see the talent, you know, rise to the top.
I was telling Adam that earlier. Just seeing Daxton ride during the week over the years, his talent is above a lot of guys on track, even champions that we've seen. Like, that's his capabilities, his technical skills. Talk about having that, but then you show up and you're racing these guys like RJ Hampshire on screen, who's a West Coast champion just 1 year ago. He's won motocross races, and you have 10 past winners. How do you get over that hurdle to battle with those guys?
It is, and you just got to rely on the work that you did in the last, you know, 5 months, and bring what you do on the weekdays, because, you know, I think that Dax is extremely talented and really clever Monday to Friday. Now we need to see the guy that got on the podium at his first race last year and carry that into, you know, and it's easier said than done. Like when the lights go out and they turn them back on after opening ceremonies, it's a lot of pressure for these kids.
And it's hard. I mean, you do so many laps on a lot of these guys ride at their one training facility, their one track. They have it dialed. Most of the time, the conditions are not the same. It's a different animal, Chad, to come out here, and we always hear in the offseason about this guy that's going faster than this guy as Levi rails that outside. But it takes a lot. It takes a special type of person to be able to come out here, first race of the season, a lot of nerves, unpredictability, and go out there and turn it on at the right time.
You know, and we talked about the sand section. You can do all the work for the last 4 months, feeling like you're firing on all cylinders, and then that one section literally sucks your mojo right out of you. And it can be that simple, you know, and we've all been there for good or bad. And I'm seeing that this weekend. You know, some guys look really good and comfortable, but they're just not able to put the complete lap together and make it all work, you know, to their advantage.
There we go. First one in the 54s, 54.9 for RJ Hampshire. Max Anstie second with a 55.4. So lap times are dropping.
And it looks like Levi liked his pass through the whoops last lap. He's taking a bit of a breather right here. Here he goes. Justin's going to set up a fast one. Let's see what he can do.
Yep, here he goes. He's going to go inside through the sand, and watch the exit of this turn. Guys are starting to get a little slippery, but he rides that cushion right there, Chad. That was nice.
That was really nice. That's a, you know, picture perfect for everybody at home. That's you know, get that wheel lean angle right up against cushion. You can, you know, maximize the acceleration.
And for those 250s, I think that 3 out of the corner in that rhythm section we just saw, as well as this next one after the triple, it's going to be very hard for those guys to do it, I feel, once the corners kind of get ruddier.
Yeah, I'm curious if they'll jump that. So yesterday on press day, the 250s were going triple right there, and it was big, huh, Adam? Like, the guys were coming out of the turn, really seat bouncing it. There goes Max Anstie to the top. With the 54, yeah, Kitchen on screen with a good run through the whoops. Let's see if he can get into the 54s. It's been a pretty solid lap so far. Just one right-hander to go. He's nice. He got that 3, a little bit short, but fast.
2.5.
P4, 56.0.
But just watching that time as we see a Kawasaki rider down on the inside in the sand there, just watching that lap, I think if I'm Levi, I know I left some out there. He had a rider kind of getting his way in the rhythm section after the triple, had to go a little bit too far inside. So I think Levi kind of has that personality type. He's going to go out there and do his best, and he might get a little irritated, but it seems like, Chad, it seems like he lets it roll off him pretty well.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to go back to the lap times here of the 2 individuals at the top. You know, I hate to beat up one conversation, but talking about the sand, if you want to talk 2 of the best sand riders in this class, those 2 are very, very good in the sand. I really believe that the sand is going to be, you know, will pay lap time, and you look at both of them are in the 54s. I really believe that, yeah, both of those guys are getting a lot of their time in the sand.
And just I was able to catch the 250 East press conference yesterday and was listening to RJ, and he's had that wrist injury, and he basically said, look, it's going to hurt me this year. There's going to be pain, but we know RJ is one of the toughest guys on the track. But I think with the way RJ goes fast, I think strength is very, very necessary. As you see, that's a perfect example right there as we see a Triumph rider down at the end of the whoops. I think that was Faulkner. Let's see if we can stick with RJ here. Looks like he's potentially setting up a fast lap if this guy doesn't get in his way.
Yeah, we've seen RJ right there. Gets the checkered flag. Group A qualifying the 250 class is done. There's still some riders on track, so not sure if Anstey will qualify fastest yet or not. But Chad, great point about Anstey and Hampshire. You mentioned RJ growing up not far from here in Dade City, riding in the sand a lot. Max Anstey, maybe one of the best riders in the world in sand. That 54.8, a lot of Europe races, one in Sand Track Lommel that you've spent a lot of time at. And so, yeah, that's a great point there. Seth Hammaker goes up to third. And how about just the conditioning, every lap, the sand changing so much? It's really going to determine for 15 minutes plus a lap. It's going to be a long main event.
Yeah, I definitely think, the hometown boy of Hampshire, I think it's really cool to see him. Adam, you've had a lot of wrist injuries. It's not easy to come back from injuries like that. And for him to, finally get it done last year, have, earn the #1 plate, kind of miss his opportunity of representing it. It's really cool for me to see that he's not only here and ready to go, he's competitive and ready to come out swinging.
Yeah, as you said, Chad, we've all been there with the wrist injuries. They're difficult ones to rehab, and that's where a majority of your strength comes from, right?
There we go, 250 Supercross East qualifying, overall qualifying. This is how they'll go to the heat race gate later on tonight. Max Anstey on top with a 54.8. RJ Hampshire not far off, only 1/10 off, 54.9. And then there's kind of a drop-off, guys, to third. Seth Hammaker, 55.7, AC.
And we haven't talked about him much, but Nate Thrasher, race winner out there in